we are very thankful to our speakers for saying yes to this invitation. And I'm not going to, that's it. That's the very, very, very short context. And I think this is very, very timely that Xavier is going to talk about this because a lot of us, I'm pretty sure, even our sons, my son in the grade school is already using Quillbot and ChatGPT, and I didn't know it at the time he was using that. So I think it's about time that we really look into this seriously, and these AI models is going to be here. So we'll just need to learn how to deal with this in our teaching. So thank you very much, and happy learning. Enjoy the morning.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Kathy, for providing us the necessary context and opening this important event. Just to give everyone now an overview, we're not having the same kind of facilities as first where the microphone lifts up or goes down. An overview of the proceedings of the symposium. So we just had the preliminaries. We ended with the opening remarks of Ma'am Kathy. We are very fortunate this morning as we are amped up with two very engaging and interesting topics. First, to be delivered by virtual presentation on Zoom by Dr. Maria Mercedes Rodrigo from the Ateneo de Manila University on generative AI in education, current practices and potential for AI-enriched classrooms. We will have a coffee break after Dr. Rodrigo's presentation, during which demonstration on using certain AI programs like ChatGPT will be done. They will be done outside, okay, during the break. And then follows the second presentation by Dr. Michelle Banawan of the Asian Institute of Management, who will be presenting realizing the potential and mitigating the risks of AI for education, pedagogical, ethical, and academic integrity, challenges, and directions. Just know. Following after will be our panel discussion. So this is the part of the symposium where instead of the usual conversations, we have members of a panel who will be initiating the discussion with our speakers, and then you will be also be engaged later with, you can also interject with your questions. The panel discussions will be introduced later. So the symposium highlights the next steps and will be presented by the closing remarks by Dr. Juliet Dalaga, our Vice President for Higher Education. That's our program. So you will not follow. So we have a kind of a tight program for today, but hopefully it's tight but full and it will generate a lot of interaction. So to start with, our first speaker, ladies and gentlemen, let me now introduce to you our first guest lecturer. Maria Mercedes T. Rodrigo is a professor at the Department of Information Systems and Computer Science in Ateneo de Manila. Her research interests include learning analytics, artificial intelligence in education, and technology in education. She is the head of the Ateneo Laboratory for the Learning Sciences, and she is on the executive committee of the Artificial Intelligence Education Society. In 2021, Dr. Rodrigo received the Distinguished Researcher Award from the Asia Pacific Society for Computers in Education, or APSCE, and currently is President-elect of APSCE. Ladies and gentlemen, here with us virtually on Zoom is Dr. Maria Mercedes T. Rodrigo. Dr. Rodrigo, are you there?
Hello,
Hello.
good morning to everyone.
So
Am I audible? Yeah, just checking if I can be heard.
Okay, there you are. Hi, Dr. Rodrigo.
Hi,
Can
good
you hear us?
morning.
Good morning.
Can I be heard?
I hope you can see us. Can you see us?
Yes, we can see. I can see you. And I was wondering if am I audible?
Yes, you are very
Okay.
audible.
All right.
You may proceed
I will
with your
share my
presentation, Dr.
video.
Rodrigo.
Okay. Thank you so much to Xavier University for inviting me to give this talk, and I am really sorry that I'm not there personally, but thank you for bearing with me and for making accommodations. Just a shout out to Michelle and of course to Ranji. Hi. Okay. The title of today's talk is Generative AI in Education, Current Practices and Potential for AI in Rich Classrooms. I'm making this presentation using AHA slides. So if you'd like to be a little more sort of participative, you're welcome to. I'll give you a few seconds to scan the QR code. My license is only good for 50 people, and if there are more than 50 people in the room, then I'm sorry, I will only be able to accommodate 50. But it would be nice to see some participation because there is a little bit of interactivity here. Okay, so I'll give it a few more seconds so that we can see if people can participate. Okay.
For some of you, you may need to log in with your Google account, either your own personal or Xavier Google account. So I got in
Yeah.
already. Join again. Said Xavier.
Great. Okay, sige. I will move on to the presentation when we are now at 35. Okay, sige. I think I'll move on to the next presentation, to the next slide, yeah. Okay, the outline of my presentation, and let me start my stopwatch so I don't go out of, I don't exceed my allotted time. The outline of this presentation is as follows. So I'll start off by talking about generative AI and how we can use Gen AI for education. I'll talk a little about the current research that's happening in the field and some ethical considerations. What is generative AI? I think at this point everybody has had some experience with generative AI already. And I should have posed this as a question, but I can see the room. Could you raise your hand if you've used it already? Something like ChatGPT. Okay, I see hands raised. Okay, thank you. All right. In the words of ChatGPT, so generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that aims to create or generate new content, such as images, text, music, and more. So let's see a little bit of how this can work. And what I'd like you to do is try to consider which images are AI generated. Okay, so this is the image of two houses. So I'll give you a few seconds to have a look at the house on the left and the house on the right, and then try to sort of figure out which one you think is AI generated. So I'll give it mga 5 more seconds. Just have a look. And then, sige, oh, what? Oh, sorry. Sige. So try to see can you take a vote lang? How many of you think that it's the image on the left that was AI generated, and how many of you think that it's the image on the right? Let's see. Okay, so most people think it's the one on the left, and you are correct. The one on the left is the one that is AI generated. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, once again, I'll give you a few seconds, have a look at these two images and try to figure out which one was AI generated. I'll give it another 5 seconds or so. And then, okay, so take a vote. And see, okay, which one do you think was AI generated? The one on the left or the one on the right? A few seconds more to go before we see the results. Oh, it's an even split. Well, it's the one on the left that is AI generated, actually. So, okay, one last. Okay, once again, here. Which one is AI generated? The one on the left or the one on the right? Okay. Have a look. And then, together, let's take a vote. Um, oops, sorry. Ah, okay, together, take a vote. Image on the left, image on the right. Which one was AI generated? Okay, oh, see, that's interesting. So many people thought that it's the one on the right that's AI generated. It's actually the one on the left that was AI generated. So you can see that it's getting sort of, I mean, I know you didn't have a lot of time to look and you're seeing this on a projected screen, so maybe it's not going to go far. But you can see it's getting harder and harder to tell which image is real and which image is not. Okay. Um, and this is just one example of uses of Gen AI. There are many others. There are, it's not, you can use Gen AI not just for novelty things like what I showed you, but you can also use them for things like product designs and layouts. So there's this assistant professor from Rochester Institute of Technology who used a Gen AI to try to create ideas for a ceramic. And he gave, I'm not sure if he used Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, but he used a prompt, cylinders embracing circles. So he wanted to create a ceramic that embodied the concept, cylinders embracing circles. And these were the suggestions that the Gen AI produced. So he took these suggestions and then he sketched his own. So he made his own sort of riff on what Gen AI provided him. And then he finally modeled, he rendered his own ideas using Autodesk Fusion 360. So this is an example of how you can use Gen AI applications to help ideate and sort of to in the same way that you would brainstorm with a human partner or a human team, you could use Gen AI to actually brainstorm ideas. You can use Gen AI to do some copy editing. I don't expect you to read this wall of text, but let me just say the one on the left was the original text, and what I basically did was I cut and paste this, put it into ChatGPT and said, ChatGPT, please rewrite this so that the grammar is correct and that it's more clear. And so you can. I don't know if it's totally obvious, but it says there is a grammatical error here. It says the two utilizes. It should be the two utilize, but it drops that altogether and just say they achieve this by employing virtual manual. Okay. You can also do translation. I took this excerpt from Francisco Balagtas's Florante at Laura, and I told ChatGPT to translate the verse into English, following the rhymed meter that Balagtas used. And okay, those of you who are much more trained and educated in Filipino translation are in a better position to assess whether this is a good translation or not. But it's certainly better than anything I could have come up with myself. Okay, and then you can use it for creative writing. I know one creative writer who makes ChatGPT play the role of her characters so that she can converse with them and try to find out. She uses it to establish like the tone and the personality of the voice basically of her characters. In this case, I asked ChatGPT to come up with a song about single origin coffee in the style of Taylor Swift, and this is what it came up with. Essentially, it looked at the past work of Taylor Swift, the way the metaphors she uses, the structure of her verses, and it tried to replicate that. Okay. If you go on Amazon.com, you'll find at least 475 books for sale that are all generated by AI. Some of them are pretty, are like the price of a regular paperback book, which is $7.99. There's some that are much cheaper, like this is about $1. But you know, there's more and more of these books coming out. And there's one, at least one called, I think it's called Sparkle, which is a children's book. Both the text and the images were generated by Gen. Okay, for those of you, if you like games, or if you teach anything related to game development, then this is something that you might want to ask your students to look into. It's using a mix of AI tools to create more conversational NPCs. I'm going to play this video, but I won't play the whole thing. I'll just play a part just to give you an idea. Okay.
Somebody has added ChatGPT AI into Skyrim, but they've gone much further than that because they've actually combined it with other AI software in order to enable you, the player, to actually speak to NPCs in Skyrim using your own voice, and consequentially have an immersive conversation in the game with all the characters you know and love from Skyrim. Let me show you guys an example here with Lydia, and then we'll go over how this actually works and what this may mean for the future of roleplay games like The Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5.
Did you learn to horse ride in Whiterun?
Let me think. My training in horse riding began long before I became a housecarl. I hail from a family of Nords who were skilled with horses, and I learned much of what I know from my father. However, in my time serving as a housecarl for the Jarl of Whiterun, I have had much opportunity to ride and care for horses, and my skills in this have only improved as a result.
So you're probably wondering how this Skyrim mod actually works. Well, the creator, Art from the Machine, has written a script that combines 3 different AI softwares together. So for this example, let's pretend that we ask an innkeeper about rumours. Firstly, we have Whisper AI, which is a speech-to-text AI that translates what you say verbally into text. That text is then sent to the second AI software, ChatGPT, which is an AI chatbot that can be fed information about the NPC it's going to be role-playing as. So depending who it's role-playing as, it can give you the appropriate response. The text response that it gives you is then sent to another AI called XCA Synth, which is pre-trained on the character's voice lines that exist in the game of Skyrim to enable it to sound like any character you're talking to in the game. And here's that result of asking the innkeeper about rumours.
I hear a lot of interesting stories from the people passing through. It's a good way to stay connected to what's happening in the world outside of Whiterun.
So this combination of AI basically allows you to talk to any NPC in Skyrim, ask them any question you want, and they'll respond in character. But
Okay, I'm gonna end it there. It's a longish video. It's about 10 minutes, and you're certainly welcome to look it up. It's on YouTube. But that gives you an idea of just if you can sort of daisy chain these different AI tools together, you can actually create something like this. Okay, now this is something that I wanted to show you, something that we produced just over the last intersession. I have a student named Elias Fernandez, whom I asked actually it was partly to just educate ourselves about how easy or how difficult it is to produce, to train ChatGPT on a very specific data set. So what he did was he created a chatbot that will answer questions about our syllabus. Diba? The school year is about to begin, and our students have so many questions. And many of these questions are answerable by, did you read the syllabus? So maybe something like this will actually work. I'll play you the video that Elias prepared. This is quite short. Come on, Google, you can do it. Okay. Sorry, this is. Elias did not start from scratch. We had another group of faculty who had already created like a framework for ayun, ito na.
So good day, I'll be showcasing a question answer chatbot based on the user's own documents. Once the documents are uploaded and embedded into a vector database, the user will be able to ask questions about the data. And in this case, we'll be using syllabi from Rodrigo. So as you can see here, here's our syllabi. And I'll just process that. So once the spinner disappears, we can start asking questions. So let's say, what are the 2 courses? So as you can see, as you can see, we have our question here, the chat history of both our question and the answer of the AI. And from here, we have our answer. So the 2 courses mentioned are guided studies in data processing and methods of research in computer science. So from here, we can try asking what is the course code for, let's say, guided studies. So as you can see, the course code is ISCS 30.18. And it has been appended here as well. So lastly, we can try to ask, who is the instructor for both courses? So we have the instructor for both courses is Maria Mercedes Rodrigo. And you can see here, it has also been uploaded to the chat history. So yeah, that is all. Thank you guys so much.
Okay. What I was saying is we have a couple of co-faculty who have already created a framework that will that made this process much easier. But essentially, they created, so the framework that they created allows sort of easy importation of files and then I think it handles tokenizing, but I'm not really completely sure. Elias and I are supposed to sit down this week for him to walk me through how this process takes place. But I guess the point I want to make is that it's a lot easier than we imagine it to be, because Elias is a 4th-year computer science major. He was able to do this in like 6 weeks. So it's not as difficult as all that. The things that are difficult are things like to prevent or to train your ChatGPT model so that it doesn't hallucinate or it doesn't give you answers that don't exist. But you can imagine the use cases for something like this. Like, I mean, isn't our favorite thing in the world Paasco? I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could use this to help us with Paasco accreditation? Meaning, we train a model using our university data, and then we can make this available to the accreditors. So when they have questions, they can just type. And then, I mean, which is not to preclude rather interviews and so on. But there's a lot of yeah, I mean, you've gone through this, right? So you know what I mean. Parang there are a lot of questions that can really be answered by just pulling the right file, but because we give them mountains and mountains of documents, sometimes they don't know which file to pull. But if you had something like this, it could be made quite easy for them to go through our stuff. Okay. All right. There's for those of you in computer science, there is something called GitHub Copilot. So again, I'll play this really briefly and just to give you an idea of what it can do.
With GitHub Copilot, writing code has become faster and more efficient than ever before. In this video, I'm going to show you how it works, discuss the benefits and limitations, provide some real-world examples on how you can use it, and share my personal opinion on whether it's worth using. So let's get started. As you start typing a line of code, GitHub Copilot automatically generates suggestions for you to choose from. These suggestions are based on the context of your code and the libraries that you're using. Not only can this help you save time by reducing the amount of typing you have to do, do, it can also help you discover new functions and libraries you may not have known about before. Plus, with GitHub Copilot's machine learning capabilities, the more you use it, the better it becomes at predicting what code you need. Overall, the autocomplete feature of GitHub Copilot is a powerful tool for developers that can greatly enhance their productivity and efficiency. Another great feature of GitHub Copilot is its ability to generate code based on the comments that you write. By writing a comment that describes what you want to accomplish, GitHub Copilot can generate the code for you. This is particularly useful for developers who may be new to a project or are trying to understand someone else's code. By describing your intention in a comment block, you can help others understand the code more easily, and GitHub Copilot can even help you generate the code to accomplish that intention.
Okay, I'll stop there. GitHub Copilot is trained on all the code that it can get its hands on in GitHub, and I think definitely from GitHub and possibly from Stack Overflow. I'm not actually sure. And yun nga, it will essentially autocomplete your code for you. It is not free. It's about $10 a month, and you do have to install it, so it's not as easy to use as something like ChatGPT, for example, which can also generate code for you, by the way. But it's it's one of these productivity tools that you may consider for like big development type projects. I don't know how you feel about your students using it, just because it might bypass some of the learning gains that you want them to achieve. But yeah, you should be aware that it's out there. Okay, there's other things like lesson planning helpers like Education Copilot. I tried running this. For some reason, they have blocked my account. I'm not sure why. I wasn't asking them to do anything weird. But anyway, if you try it, Education Copilot is can help you create. You basically give it your learning goals, how long your course is, what outcomes you want, and it'll try to generate a course outline. It will even suggest resources that you can use to offer your course. Okay, so there are all these tools and actually a lot more. Now, where is current research in AI for education going? I've cherry-picked some examples from the AI Ed 2023 conference, which just took place last July. And I wanted to share a few things with you. So for example, there's one application that's being considered, or that's being developed, using Gen AI to help with mnemonic creation in second language learning. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say that the first language is English and the second language is German. And let's say that we want to learn what the German word for bottle is. The German word for bottle is flash, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that properly. So this is these words are sent to the application which is called the transphoner, and so the transphoner creates this prompt. So write a short, catchy sentence that connects the German word with the original English word, and this is passed to ChatGPT, and so ChatGPT says, imagine a flashy bottle that stands out from the rest. You have to start with imagine because this is the cue that's sent to Midjourney. So Midjourney, DALL-E 2. Okay, uses DALL-E. So it sends the prompt to DALL-E 2, and DALL-E 2 creates this image over here, which is a set of bottles, and in the middle of it, there's this one particular bottle that's a different color and is taller than the rest. So it's a flashy bottle. We use these kinds of mnemonics in language education to help us remember words that we are hearing maybe for the first time. Okay, so we have the verbal cue, which is a flashy bottle, and we have the image as well of a standout bottle, and that we think will associate the word flash German with the word bottle. Okay. There is one of the things that Gen AI is not great at the moment is generating word problems for mathematics. And so this is an area that people are looking into. So what they've been able to do so far is they've created an application that takes essentially a template, which they call a seed, and then sort of fills in the details of the seed with such that the level of difficulty is maintained. What they've found is that the users are successful at constraining things like problem difficulty and linguistic factors, and the output, the users are actually quite satisfied with the output. When they evaluate the output in terms of solvability, topic, language quality, creativity, the word problems actually do meet the expectations of the users. Another thing, if you remember the video I showed earlier about Skyrim, this same or similar technology is being used to help train doctors, which actually is quite perhaps relevant to XU because you have your own medical school. One of the ways that one of the methods that's used to train doctors for their train doctors in their bedside manner and being able to interview patients and so on is to actually have an actor play out the role of a patient. But the thing is, having an actor do that can be quite challenging because if you have to train 50 or 100 doctors, the poor actor has to do the same interview 50 to 100 times. What this approach does is it actually creates a virtual patient that is trained on the medical history that the teacher provides, and the doctors interview the virtual patient, and the virtual patient will never get tired. I mean, it'll just keep answering and answering the questions, no matter how many times the doctor asks, and no matter how many doctors ask. The results of this study are that there's a cost savings because you don't have to hire the actors. Also, they find that this technology makes it easier to train doctors in far-flung areas or poor socioeconomic areas. This can be practiced anytime, anywhere, and it does scale. So this is something that hopefully we can look into more. Maybe perhaps some of your students would like to do something like this. Okay, back to the issue of math problems. One of the other things that is challenging about creating word problems for math is that if your word problem does not match the interests of your students, that mismatch can introduce another cognitive barrier. So if your word problem has to do with, let's say, cooking, and your student really has no interest in cooking, then that's yet another hurdle that the student needs to be able to overcome. So what this group is doing is it's trying to create an LLM that will create word problems based on the interests of students. So for example, if the interest is TikTok, the original math problem should be 2x plus 3 plus 15. If the interest is TikTok, then the word problem is TikTok related. So in the realm of TikTok, you're working on a new viral challenge, blah, blah, blah. If the interest is NBA, during an NBA game, a player earns points for their team is scoring. So, it's by customizing the word problem based on the interests of the students, hopefully the students can focus on the math and less on on the wrapper of the math. Okay. Now, what are some of the ethical challenges that we are confronted with? Well, first of all, this is, I guess, the concern that all of us share, and that is the concern of plagiarism. There are tools that try to help detect AI-generated text. However, it's an arms race, right? So you can't. The technology is only getting better, and so the detectors have to be again better than the AI, and at some point, and the original producers. And so, right now, the AI text detectors uh, are, they work, but they don't work 100%. So there's always stuff that will pass us by. The other thing is we have to, one of the challenges to us as teachers is we have to really, we cannot depend so heavily on what Gen AI produces, or we cannot take for granted that okay na yan, as if it produces it, okay na yan, sige, pwede na. Because the current technology does have limitations. So for example, if you ask it to produce multiple choice questions from a textbook, Andrew Olney, what he does is he actually has human evaluators check the question for correct information, grammar, fluency. He wants them to check whether the answer that the LLM says is correct is actually correct. And then the correct answer is present in the options and so on. So parang there's this rubric that he uses to evaluate the quality of the questions. And these kinds of rubrics are quite important. Maybe in a few years time we won't need them, but for now we still need them. We need to produce, as universities, we need to produce our own set of principles for responsible AI use. UP has already produced its own, and I'm not going to go into each and every point. They are, I think, universal sentiments that we can all resonate with. But I think it's important that we ourselves produce similar statements, and I think AIM has one. Maybe Michelle can say something about it later. And then the publishing houses like Elsevier, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, have come up with their own statements about when they will allow the use of generative AI. Right now, the policy is that you can only use generative AI to improve language and readability for paper. And you need to disclose that you have used these things. There are many opportunities for us as educators. Hopefully, these technologies will increase our productivity. It'll reduce, I hope, some of the grunt work. And the use case that I really want to see, I'm sorry, I keep going back to this, is PASCO. I really want to see this on our PASCO accreditations. Hopefully it will help us produce more meaningful feedback for our students, and maybe it will boost our creativity. The challenges to us is that we really have to be clear about what skills we're trying to develop in our students, so that because this is what will determine when the use of Gen AI is allowed and when it's not. So if you want to develop in your students the skill of writing a for loop, then getting Gen AI to write your for loop for you subverts that learning goal. And therefore, that is not a good use of Gen AI. That's not an allowable use of Gen AI. But if you are trying to ideate, if you're trying to brainstorm, asking Gen AI to do like quick and dirty ideas, that might be legit. And then for you, and then of course the challenge for the student then is to take off from those initial ideas and actually produce something. So in that regard, we have to be ready to create more meaningful data assessments. We might want to focus on process. In other words, if you're not already doing this, parang instead of giving one project one time big time submission, you might want to have interim deliverables so that you can really track whether the students are working on it or whether they're just constantly outsourcing to someone else or to something else. And then, of course, clear policies. I think that's my last slide. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and yeah,
Thank you very much, Dr. Rodrigo, for that very informative, interesting, and timely presentation. We still have a few minutes left. We didn't consume you for 20 minutes. So we can actually entertain questions from the floor at the moment. So if you can use the microphones, is that all right, Dr. Rodrigo?
Sure.
Okay. So if you have pressy questions right now that you can raise, please come forward and use the microphones at either side. Please identify first yourself and then your designation, and you can present the question. I know there are lots of questions there. I'm Kaulo. Don't be shy. This side so that because the camera is weird. Where is the camera facing? Sige na. You have questions from anybody from the floor? Yes, please. Just stand up and then approach the microphone. Since you are far away, ma'am, yeah, you can use the microphone and start.
So, I'm Jane Galyamaso from Philosophy Department. So, you human beings get excited of something new that emerged in our century, and artificial intelligence is one of these new things that we get excited about. Can you imagine while listening to that presentation, that AI could make our life very efficient and fast and efficient and convenient, because it will immediately answer a question. If ever, so, human beings, sometimes they don't answer us for a day, but the machine can answer us in a minute. So that's very exciting. I remember in government offices, you email them, they don't answer you for 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month, but with that, it can answer you for just 1 minute. It's very exciting. But then, my concern is really, to every invention or discoveries, my concern is always the ethical aspect of it. It's always the ethical aspect. It is very important that we should know why are we using it, for what purpose. We should be very clear as to why are we using it and for what purpose. And at the same time, what is the ethical implication of this thing? If I'm correct, the machine cannot create its own data. It cannot because the machine is nothing. It's a mere thing. So I would imagine that there are lots of people in flesh and blood that gathered all the data and then fashioned it in that machine in order to, let's say, make it systematically function. So in the end, the ethical issue there would be how accurate are those data given to us? And in the second thing, how accurate it is, ang mga data. And second ethical issue would be that how, let's say, as to the ownership, somebody's going to copy a particular work of art or painting, so there would then be a violation of ownership if that is the case. Okay, and the other ethical thing that I'm concerned of is what will happen if AI will dominate us, which means to say that there will be few workers at Xavier University anymore. We will not be needing staffs because anyway, we will just replace and use it with the machine. So that would mean unemployment. Okay, so anyway, I just have to shortcut that it's really all about the ethical aspect. So if there is AI there, we really have to draw all these ethical rules or expectations so as not to go beyond this invention. So my fear would be that this invention might control man, but in the end, it is man that should be in control of things. So it should serve us, not that we may be enslaved in the process. That's all.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Very, very good points. On your point about, I just have a couple of responses. No, you're very right about the data that's used to train these models. The data ideally should be ethically sourced, but the fact of the matter is, in many cases, it is not. There are three C's, especially when it comes to the art that's used to train things like DALI 2 and Midjourney and so on. There are three C's, letter C's, that need to be taken into consideration. One is consent, because what the what the AI does is it goes all over the internet and collects different images and uses that as training data. And so consent was never given by the original artist. Second, credit. The original artists are not credited for the work that they have inadvertently donated uh, to the AI. And the third is compensation. They're not actually compensated for that work. So these are some of the ethical questions that confront that side of the training data. But you also alluded to the question of bias. This is very true. How complete, how accurate is the information? Definitely, it's selective. The data that's used is the data that's available, and we know that there's a lot of data that's not available. Our own data from the Philippines is siloed, and it's not really available on the web. And then maybe that's good to some extent, but it also means that we don't have a voice, and we're not represented by many of these AIs. There are people, there are movements that encourage deep thinking about these ethical issues. And so, yeah, hopefully we will continue as we move forward. We'll continue to keep the human in the loop. So, as you said, that we should not be sort of on the receiving end of the outputs of these AIs, but they should be our helpers and companions rather than our bosses. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rodrigo. I hope that was answered. Any other question from the floor? Yes, please. You can come up here, please. Or you can come up here.
Hello, my name is Jan Rupert Alfecha. I just newly joined the Sociology and Anthropology department, and I've recently learned that Facebook is opening up AI model that is going to directly challenge for free the current models that are there. And the question that I have is, considering the ethical issues of the databases that are being used with regard to consent and credit and compensation, how do we right now navigate the use of these AI models so that we don't continue to engage in the violation of that consent, the violation of credit, and hopefully find some way to compensate for the use of the databases that these learning models and these AI models use. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for that because actually, right now we are users, right? The only way to not be a party to it is to not use them. And I'm not, yeah, so I'm not sure that we as the users are, um, yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't have a good answer. I'm sorry. Maybe, I don't know, Michelle, do you have thoughts? I know that we might be preempting your talk, but yeah.
Didit, I was just telling Ranji, those kinds of questions I cannot answer. So we're on the same boat.
Okay. So, yeah.
That's
Sorry.
good.
Can I just add one more thing, pala,
Sure thing.
to my answer for the previous question about the the tricky thing about these AIs is that they do create this sort of what's called a Matthew effect, as in the Gospel of Matthew. Those who have oh God, this is embarrassing. Teka, yung parang those who already have plenty will have more, and those who have less, even that will be taken away from them. And I'm terribly sorry that's not an exact biblical quote, but everybody in the room knows what I mean. So, um, essentially, it will increase the digital divide for some to a great extent. Those people who are well versed in the use of AI. Can you imagine a programmer who knows how to use GitHub Copilot will definitely outperform somebody who does not? Okay. So there's going to be that factor that we also have to think about. So parang if we choose to disengage, and this connects to this last question, we're going to be on the losing side of, and our students definitely will be on the losing side of this whole situation. Um, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rodrigo. If I may, someone else here from the audience is also willing to give some answer for the question. Is it all right, Dr. Rodrigo? We have here from a guest here also, who is a valid scientist from Australia. He is also doing work in IT, data analytics, and machine learning. So, Dr. Raul Manongdo will like to give an answer to that, the previous question.
My food is a tanan, and that's as far as Marijuana would go. In answer to the question, good morning, how do you control these? Actually, we can't. In all honesty, based on what I've been reading, this ChatGPT is OpenAI, and the product is proprietary, it's private. You can never really expect a private company to reveal their data source, because that opens them to litigation. And it has happened before, and it's already happened. I've read cases where OpenAI gets litigation on some copyright, and then they just have to do is hire some people from Kenya, and they pay them about $2 per hour, I heard, no? Just to retrain that data. No? And we'll keep on going. No? Yung ganyan, the best, who can really best control it is, I guess, the US government. And there are big debates in the US government now at the very top on how to really regulate it. No? That's as far as I know. And you see, the US government, when social media came out, they were also caught. No, they did not prepare very well. And social media, in the onset, ended up until disinformation campaign, and then till the likes of Cambridge Analytica, firms like that spread disinformation came out. And the US government doesn't want that to happen this time. So, nandun sila ngayon. So the short answer there is really, we cannot. We're just users at this point. If you use ChatGPT, my thinking, yes, we could come up with policies. May mga policies na lumabas, General Monetary Rate was from Harvard, yung malaking ano nila, policies. And it's good that you came out with the policy too. No? Ang importante lang I am for really embracing the technology. No? And like, and it's really disruptive. Yun ang tingin ko. I hope, just my 2 cents worth.
That was Dr. Raul Manongdo, who is a Walik scientist, for his response. Does that, okay, one more question from the floor before we go to the coffee break.
Mayong buntag. Ma'am, assuming we have policies that...
Sir Derek, paki-introduce.
I'm sorry. Derek Pimentel, ma'am, from Philosophy Department. We assume, because, yeah, it's very important that we have to embrace this, I would call it an onslaught of the influence of ChatGPT or AI. But some of us, it's not just embracing, but it's something that we have to be imposed upon ourselves, because in the context of my experience in Xavier, I have students who are very good at using AI better than what I know so far. I'm beginning to understand what it is. So the fact is, young people are more attuned and easy for them, very convenient for them to use it. And the advantage, again, of seeing it as part of or co-pilot or their co-learner or something that they can rely on, even sometimes better than their teachers, is creating that sense of tension in my experience, for example, or in a possibility that there might be in a scenario where the data that AI produced are far better than what a well-meaning, good-intentioned teacher is trying to provide in the classroom based on how he is trained in his college degree. So that's an observation. The question that I'm trying to raise here, assuming, for example, that we have policies on transparencies and ethical measures that we put in, how do we, because you mentioned about we bypass some of the learning processes if we are not clear what skills and what is our competence that we want to develop in our students, then it's possible. Because my context, ma'am, is I'm in philosophy, and it's very important that our students whom we teach in philosophy are able to think, generate their ideas, develop their insights, and be able to read physically the text. But somehow AI can do everything, all those things. So even if we put that transparency, how do we balance the tension of it is good because it is making the learning process efficient and maybe faster? But if we say we refuse to allow our students to have that, so that we put, for example, that they're not allowed, and yet we're not also serving justice to our students who also want to know more and be more efficient in their learning. So that tension, that even if we're ethical about it, how is this to be done in your experience in that setting? I do not know if the question is clear, but I hope you understand my point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, first of all, we're all new at this. I mean, this technology was made publicly available in November of last year, so we're not even 10 months into this. I think that this is, I don't have like a really good answer again. I think, but I do think that what the questions you ask are good prompts for discussion among the faculty, because these are things that really have to be wrestled with at your among you and your colleagues, uh, how do you actually your point about the work um, that something like Gen AI can produce would be better than anything, let's say, that a young teacher who's just new uh, who might have produced on his own or her own. Maybe it's certainly better than what some of our students can produce. So parang how do you balance? Um, I think that we can uh, maybe this goes back a little to what I was saying, that is there a way to give weight to the process? Um, is there a way to assess the process of coming up with these uh, thoughts, these ideas, or how how they bothered to read and um, reflect, and so parang is there a way to assess that? I know that's hard. Um, that might be one way forward, but yeah, generally it is something that we all will have to wrestle with and are wrestling with now. In fact, this I think is the subject of our faculty day here in Ateneo de Manila. So, you know, yeah, we're all in the same boat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rodrigo. Sir Derek, we will be doing more of this later during the panel discussion. I think some of these points will be raised again during panel discussion. So I think we have to move on with this next part, which is what you are looking for also. So there will be a 15-minute coffee break, stressed on the coffee. Okay, if I may be indulged, let me move on with our symposium. Okay. Our second speaker is a full-time research faculty of the Aboitiz School of Innovation, Technology, and Entrepreneurship at the Asian Institute of Management. She is the academic program director of AIM's first undergraduate program offering, the dual degree program on Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Data Science, and University of Houston's Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, major in Management in Information Systems. Her postdoctoral research at the Science of Learning and Educational Technology Laboratory in Arizona State University, under the directorship of Dr. Danielle McNamara, involves the design and development of natural language processing, or NLP, and machine learning, ML, models, using deep learning in the automated evaluation of student writing within intelligent tutoring systems. She is also doing research in computational linguistics to understand academic and social media discourse. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Michelle P. Banawan, and let us welcome her with an enthusiastic round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Maayong buntag sa tanan. I am happy to be here, and let us continue our appreciation of this thing called generative AI. Whoops, I didn't anticipate it be that slow, but there we will look at. These are the issues that we will look at. Anytime within this morning that will load, I guarantee you. I guess I might need help from tech to just push it really fast. So, okay, it's just the title slide. All right, so we will be looking at, and I'll be giving you a brief backgrounder just for our colleagues who haven't dabbled into generative AI, into ChatGPT as much, and we'll look at the questions that matter. But at the onset, I'd like to tell everyone that I myself have questions and don't have any answers. So I'll raise more questions today than give you answers, unfortunately. I'll talk about what a language model is. What is a language model? And we'd be amiss if we don't review that and appreciate the culprit behind this thingamagic that we find ourselves within. And it's the power of the word, the power of language. What do we get from language? We get meaning, we get domain context, we even get sentiment. And this is what language gives us. And this is the underlying power between all this computing, this modern artificial intelligence. It just leverages the power of language. And that's why it seemingly does these amazing feats, like reason, critical thinking, quote unquote, and cognition. We are now finding ourselves in the alphabet soup of AI. So first we have AI, we know that it's artificial intelligence, and we know that, to be very simplistic about it, AI has been put there to mimic human intelligence, to estimate, to approximate how we think, how our brains work. Now, what's seemingly intuitive for us, we want to transfer that to machines, to have some artificial form of that. And then we also have, now it's moving forward when I don't want it to. Okay. We're going back to that alphabet soup. Can we go back to the alphabet soup deck, please? There. So we have AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. The end goal for AI researchers is to come up or design with this artificial general intelligence. Most of AI deployments we see or hear about are artificial narrow intelligence, meaning they're designed to do one thing and be very good at doing this one thing. So say, for example, our self-driving cars. We also have smart homes or some other versions of AI that we deal with. Even the humble face recognition in our smartphones. They do one thing and they're very good at it. With ChatGPT, though, the distinction between artificial general intelligence and artificial narrow intelligence is not as clear as night and day anymore. We are approaching some form of twilight era where ChatGPT seemingly does or is good in just generating language. It used to be that before this ChatGPT, these conversational chatbots, we have language models that does exactly one thing. We have summarization models where, given a text, they are able to extract an abstract from the text, so do some abstractive summarization, or do generative summarization, and that's what these models can do. Then we also have question answering models. This was way before ChatGPT, these conversational bots that we see now. So these question answering models, you ask it a question, it gives you answers. So hence we are talking to these robots or chatbots that give us one-word answers or just are devoted to a single context. Now, that's not the case with ChatGPT. Next would be GAI. It's generative AI, and Doc Didith Rodrigo has done an awesome job, as always, in giving us trends of GAI, of generative AI. And the keyword there is that it generates something. And then we'll look at that in a while. Now we also have LLMs, our large language models. So these are machine learning or computational models that have been trained on a massive data set, usually on text. And this leverages the power of language to extract meaning, to understand what the task is, and to even do the task. And then we have finally, oh, I've missed NLP. It's natural language processing. So it's some form of AI that works with text and processes it to do a certain task, specific use cases. And finally, we have GPT, generative pre-trained transformer. So generative, we know what generative is. It generates something, generates text, generates some other forms of media. Pre-trained, it has been trained on massive data sets that is a black box, if we must say. And then we have transformers. What would we mean when we say transformers? My clicker and I are not friends now. Lobat? There? Oh, I'm not. Where? Oh, I'm pointing it towards the audience. Sorry. Okay. Now, when we speak of transformers, we don't mean Bumblebee or Optimus Prime. We also do not mean transformers that we rely on to do our work, but it's the third model. Transformer is an AI, a neural network model. Neural meaning it's a form of an architecture that tries to replicate how our brains encode and decode information, how it encodes and decodes input to generate an output. So that's what a transformer is. If you'd like to take a step back, a transformer is some sophisticated form of what we might be more familiar with, maybe regression models, but that's the crude form, you know? So we add more mathematics into it. There. So the question is that, is ChatGPT a stochastic parrot, or is it nearing cognition? Is it able to reason, to understand, or does it just spew out language without understanding the meaning? Now, that's a debate. There are valid claims to the debate. I belong to the side of the fence where there's some parroting done, but there is an approximation of a world or a mental representation because it's able to model that. But again, those are the questions. Does it just spew out these words without really understanding it? It depends on how we qualify what our interpretation of understanding is. But what's a given is that it's able to approximate some mental representation. So there's some meaning to it that is captured by the underlying model. We will talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly because we don't want to be so naive as just to focus on the good because we have to take at the bigger picture. The home runs are, first and foremost, it's able to generate it's not able to distinguish. It's able to generate content that we cannot distinguish if it was generated by humans or AI. That's one of the home runs. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? For sure, there's some good in it. There might be some negative implications on that, but we'll go into that conversations later, or the university would like to also engage into that conversation further. Second is that it answers questions in a comprehensive manner. And so unlike the chatbots that we've all been working with, it does not just give us this few words, sentences, and answers. It's like we're talking to an actual human. And third home run among the many would be it generates different creative content, so text and other media and other modalities. Now the horrors. These are the horrors that large language models, not only ChatGPT, but most of AI, generative AI models give us. First is that it can be used to generate harmful content. At its earlier deployments, we have seen that ChatGPT, people ask ChatGPT, how do I build a bomb from home, a homemade bomb? And ChatGPT answers those types of questions. So OpenAI, developers of ChatGPT, immediately caught that and addressed that. So ChatGPT, if you read now, is not as fun as it was before. It's a bit regulated. There's some form of constraint in it, but that's some horrors. What if constraints aren't put properly? What if the proper constraints are put in it? And who says what is wrong? Who says what is right? So I told you I'll be giving you more questions than answers today. Then we also this generative AI can also be used to propagate deepfakes. As we know, deepfakes are this form of media where AI is able to generate maybe a video or a photo where a person seemingly does something in that video or photo, but the person was not there or did not do that at all. And this might be done for some malicious intent and like damage someone else's reputation. A third horror would be it can be used to automate tasks that humans can do. Now that's a good thing, but we have seen how a number of organizations have fired people, replaced the workforce with chatbots. Helpline, a known organization in the US, fired some of its people who, frontliners who listen to the calls of patients who are suffering some or are undergoing some mental struggles, maybe anorexia and all that. So again, one question, just because AI can do it, should AI do it? And a last horror, I'm not a believer of this horror, but it's a common horror that's articulated. I do not believe in it, but I still put it out there just because it's articulated, and I'd be amiss if I don't. So some say that there'd be singularity, that AI can lead to the extinction of human race. There might be some valid claims to that school of thought, but I'm a endless enthusiastic person, and I also know some technical stuff underlying this, so I'm not really a believer. Next, we go to the ugly. The good would be our home runs. The bad would be the horrors. The ugly would be hallucinations. Hallucination is a technical term. It does not refer to us when we have some hallucinations of our own. Hallucinations are referred to our inaccurate content that ChatGPT or some other generative AI tool spew out, and it appears to be so confident when it spews out these hallucinations. No, it's so proud to say it doesn't know. It gives us an answer, and it appears to be as confident as it was, even if the probability of that answer is close to zero, because it's still probabilities underlying it and more. Now, given this, what are our pedagogical challenges? You have articulated a number already in the a while ago. So first would be, how can we talk to AI? How can we prompt ChatGPT? There's now a new career that's, if you search in LinkedIn, they are so highly paid, and these are prompt engineers. And we as users, we may not end up as prompt engineers, but we should learn how to talk to AI. We should learn how to be AI whisperers to optimize usage of AI and do our tasks more efficiently. And that's one of the challenge. So how do we do this if we don't speak the language? AI, talking to AI, leveraging how we do AI, and prompting is not very difficult for us educators. We know how to give clear and concise instructions to our students, to our constituents. right? And those rules are the same as we take on conversing with AI. Now, after we master how to become good AI whisperers to get generated responses that are not hallucinatory, that can be accurate, and those that we can use to enrich the task that we do, to play the different roles we play every day, I would like to put forward that we go back also to the way we prompt human learners. So I call this prompting both ways. First, we learn how to prompt, how to talk to AI. Then we go back and learn how to talk to our learners, how to talk to our constituents. The way we do things before does not make the cut anymore, because our constituents use AI way before we have been using it, or we intend to be using it. So we need to know what questions to ask. We should know how to scaffold learning, given that our students have access to these generative AI tools. And third here is the Bloom's Two Sigma problem. In the 1980s, there's a finding that students who get instruction and formation in a one-on-one, in a tutorial session, achieve positive learning outcomes that are 2 standard deviations higher than those in a classroom setting. Now, this is a good thing. Why is this referred to as Bloom's Two Sigma problem? It's a problem because the problem is, given that we are aware of this increase in, or this improvement, 2 standard deviations improvement, that's a good thing. How do we then scale it such that a classroom setting can get this same improvement in learning? Now, we feel that ChatGPT is able to help us scale this and address Bloom's Two Sigma problem. So we can leverage ChatGPT to scale this individualized instruction and feedback and independent learning. So now, our role as educators are redefined. In what way? Aside from prompting, learning how to use ChatGPT and its other alternatives, and learning how to talk to our students, given that they are ChatGPT, they can be ChatGPT users. First is that it requires some integration of and adopt our roles from traditional instructors to facilitators and mentors. Now, we are all aware of how we do that, no? In this paradigm of learning that we are all in. We are the guide on the side rather than the sage on the stage, right? Because if we are that sage on the stage, ChatGPT can just very well dethrone us from the stage, no? So it's good that we think of ChatGPT as part of the class, as somebody, as a peer of the students. So we should rethink what the pedagogies we put in place, what our strategies for learning are, given ChatGPT. Second, we must possess the necessary skills to leverage AI tools effectively and create meaningful learning experiences. I will show you in the next set of slides some things that I found to have worked. They are not bulletproof strategies, but I found them to have worked, and they're not a complete list. But the takeaway is that we as educators are missing a lot on, and putting on blinders if we choose to ignore that ChatGPT is here. ChatGPT is in our classrooms. Again, ensuring meaningful student engagement. So AI tools should be designed to promote active and meaningful student engagement rather than passive consumption of information. So, who will teach our students to do this if not us? If we do not actively teach our students how to use ChatGPT properly and how to to sort through the weeds, the hallucinatory responses, that's dangerous because they might use it in an incorrect way, and that will compromise the education, the quality of education. So how do we teach our students to use ChatGPT properly? How do we use it to have meaningful experience and not use it incorrectly, undeclared, unnoticed, such that it subverts the learning process, as Doc Didith has mentioned in the first talk. So we should strike a balance between AI-driven personalized learning and collaborative interactive activities. When we say AI-driven personalized learning, this should be intentional. So we identify these areas in our course content and incorporate this as a scaffolding to our pedagogies in class. And it's easier said than done. Designing adaptive learning experiences. So AI-based adaptive learning systems should be carefully designed to accommodate diverse learning styles, preferences, and individual needs. I've been using AI to give feedback to my students, and there's a workflow. I just don't throw out prompts and say, this is my student work, give feedback. This is my rubrics, generate the feedback, score it. ChatGPT can do that. Can do that accurately. If we look at the feedback, it's how you would have given it anyway, and maybe even better. But we owe it to our students too, if we use to put in our flavor. We are, of course, we know our sheep, we know them. So let us leverage this knowledge that ChatGPT does not have. So when we ask ChatGPT, this is my student work, this is the rubric, score it, give it feedback, then we put in our expertise. We put in how we know our students. We revise that, we can work on it somehow, and let's give and let's provide personalized feedback. So if we're telling our students to not take ChatGPT output and submit it as is, we, in the very first place, should be doing that when we're using ChatGPT as educators and formators. So I apologize for the small font size, but let me just describe to you what I did here. There's this beginner level output, and then I told ChatGPT I have this rubric and score it and give it feedback. So for each rubric criteria, ChatGPT gave actual feedback on the output. So imagine the number of hours that it will take off on me, the load that will take off me, and the surprise that I've been giving my students ever since ChatGPT. Thank you, ChatGPT, because they're so surprised that I give so specific feedback as compared to how I do it before. Now I'm so comprehensive, but of course it takes more effort and time. I think it did not really reduce the time that I put in it, but that's okay as long as the quality of my feedback is even better. No, I put in more time, but I give this formative feedback, and that's even better. No, so that gives me more return than just putting in more hours. So I have beginner level. In this slide, it's intermediate level. We can ask our colleagues from the center for the deck if you're interested. And then next, customizing content and delivery. ChatGPT can help us do this. So we tailor educational content to match individual student capabilities, prior knowledge, and all these other factors we want. One engagement I had with ChatGPT was that I asked ChatGPT to generate guide questions for a movie review and say the movie is The Emperor's Club. So ChatGPT generated those questions, and I say, ChatGPT can answer these questions. It's so generic. So I prompted ChatGPT again. make it more personalized. So ChatGPT generated questions that are more personalized. But I said, well, students can still ask ChatGPT to answer this and tell ChatGPT to make it more personalized, because the personalized questions are, whom among the characters do you resonate with and relate an experience in the past about such and such. And so I said, what if, okay, ChatGPT, connect the questions to a previous lesson or activity that we did so that there's some continuity. Well, that might be difficult already, but no. ChatGPT can still do that. Students can prompt. They're smarter at prompting than us because they've been using it longer than us. Students can prompt. All right, ChatGPT, these are the questions. Answer this. Make it personalized. These are these are the characters in the movie that I resonate with. And connect it to a previous movie we watched in class, like, say, The Dead Poet Society. And ChatGPT did a very awesome job. Personalized, connected to previous lessons. Good luck, dear colleagues. Now, ethical considerations in AI tutoring. First, so ensuring ethical practices in AI tutoring systems, such as maintaining student privacy, avoiding algorithmic bias, and providing transparent explanations for recommendations and feedback. So, if we use ChatGPT and leverage it, mainstream it, and in the use cases we play in the classroom, let us consider all this when we're putting out our student information out there, we're putting out institutional information out there, and so we're opening up these vulnerabilities, and that's an entire conversation on its own. Maybe our university president, Father Marstan, would like to engage in that conversation in the future. All right, so again, data-driven decision making. So educators must develop skills to interpret and utilize data generated by AI tools to inform instructional decision-making delivery. Now, we will look at detection of AI-generated content later for some other motivation, but for this slide, our context is to be able to interpret and utilize data to inform pedagogies that we put in place, to inform which assessments, which activities we would encourage the use of ChatGPT on, and which ones will tell the students that we will not use ChatGPT for this activity because we want you to learn some under the hood concepts. Right? So these are things that we might also need to also consider. ChatGPT can promote critical thinking and creativity. It does not always stifle if we teach our students to use it correctly. That's a bit controversial. Who knows what this is? Do we have students in the room? So it's whoever wears this ring would maybe hallucinate. So one thing that I did and found on the first day of class, I have this activity that I call hallucination hunt. And I do not want to let my students not appreciate ChatGPT, but at the onset, I make them aware of the hallucinatory responses that ChatGPT has. And after this activity, my students never use ChatGPT on its own without fact-checking, vetting, recalculating it themselves. Because I ask them to use ChatGPT on a topic that you are really good on and very interested in, and then see the answers and if it's correct. So we'd expect there's a lot of Mobile of Legends prompt, a lot of video games, some Korean movies, and some also, they put in some SAT math questions, and they found that ChatGPT weren't able to, was not able to give the correct answers. And at the end of the day, I've heard a couple of students, ChatGPT is so stupid, huh? I'm sorry, ChatGPT, you know, I love you if you're hearing. No, just kidding. So here I have screenshots. If you happen to get a copy of the slides, you'd see example prompts where ChatGPT failed to give the correct answers. And that really stressed how dangerous it will be for them to rely on ChatGPT without due diligence, without investigating. So some of them do not work using ChatGPT anymore because it will take a lot of fact checking. So they would rather read the material themselves than fact check all this many information that was generating for them. Fact checking, the route on fact checking isn't as bad anymore because they do learn with fact checking. There's when ChatGPT, the free version, and some other of its alternatives have some, most hallucinatory responses are very specialized fields, mathematics, physics, some core concepts that need calculation, but I'd like everyone, you colleagues, to be aware that for our students who are able to afford a ChatGPT Plus subscription, which is around 1,000 pesos a month, some of our students might be able to afford that, while most of our students might not, or some of our students might not. But those who are able to afford that, there are ChatGPT plugins that do not, that are least likely to generate hallucinations anymore. So may I ask our colleagues in the tech booth to click the link, please. So this is the Wolfram Alpha plugin, and if we scroll down, we'd see, scroll down some more, yes. So we'd see all these word problems that are calculated correctly just using the ChatGPT interface. So if you see your field there, your students have some access to it. And so we have there. It's good that you also play around with what they have, the kinds of questions that they can let AI generate for them. Okay. So we go to our next slide. Thank you. We go back to the slide. Okay, I'll just quickly move forward because I'm out of time. So the important thing for this slide is that we use it as a tool, not as a source of information for now, because the plugins are here and it's being improved. Different use cases in different fields, so research topic exploration. You'd see in these workflows that it's just not a mere reliance on ChatGPT. There's some validation, some fact-checking, and so it's good that we articulate or be aware of the use cases where ChatGPT can enrich the teaching and learning process, and then see where we can put in some our expertise as guides, and where students can put in their expertise establishing, students can put in work such that they establish the correct expertise. I'll just, so ethical challenges. We have classic principles of practical ethics, and as we know, they are also, ChatGPT all the more makes this glaring challenges for us. First would be beneficence, and we know that it should be beneficial and enhance well-being, contributing to socio-economic opportunities and properties. Again, the question of what's the proper way to use it? When does it compromise the teaching and learning process? And these are the questions that we need to, we will try to address and attempt as an institution. Then, non-maleficence or do no harm. We don't want ChatGPT or generative AI to cripple the or to stifle creativity of our students. So we'd like to also address this. And then autonomy, to respect the individual's ability to make decisions that align with their values and interests. Now we have this recommender systems in Netflix. You have movies that are recommended for you, and it claims that it knows you. This is what we know as the filter bubble of AI, of recommender systems. People in marketing, there's some ethical questions here. ChatGPT and AI will also have this. No, it will like narrow down the world of learning by what it generates. Justice and fairness. So what do we do with students who cannot afford ChatGPT Plus subscriptions? Ethical principles specific to AI are accountability, respect for privacy, and transparency. Now, very quickly, if we would like to put in some paranoia, if I'd like to take on some paranoia, there are some ChatGPT alternatives. The ChatGPT free version is powered by GPT 3.5. A ChatGPT paid version is powered by GPT-4, a more recent, the latest version. A ChatGPT alternative is Bing Chat. If you have Microsoft Edge, you have Bing Chat, and that's powered by GPT-4, the more modern version. Another ChatGPT alternative is Google Bard, but please read the disclaimer. It will tell you that your data, your facts are used, and it says Google Bard, an experiment. So now we go to accountability and responsibility. When our students use ChatGPT for some part of the coursework, they should know that they are taking on what they are submitting, taking on the responsibility and accountability for what they are submitting. And we also do that as users of ChatGPT. We also take on accountability and responsibility. Okay, I'll just breeze through the slides because I'm running out of time. Sorry, Pox, I told you I'll finish early. So transparency and explicability, ChatGPT's training data set, ChatGPT and its contemporaries, it's still a black box. We do not know. We don't have those information. And there's a clamor for transparency, and that's an ongoing debate. There's even some regulations, no, among those who develop and deploy these AI models, and that's a valid debate that's been going on. Now, the elephant in the room, academic integrity. We know that what revision should we articulate? Which ones should we be silent about? And these are things that we might need to address sooner than later. We understand the issue because students can rely solely on ChatGPT. How do we prevent? How do we incentivize its proper use? How do we detect when we articulate policies that have some sanctions? Question is, can we detect? Do we put out a rule on something that we cannot even implement? Because AI detection scores now are just probability. They're just likelihood. They might approximate it more quote-unquote accurately now, but they're just probability. They're just likelihood. And this is a teaching opportunity for us. And responsible chat GPT use for our students, due diligence, fact checking, attribution. Personally, I do not allow ChatGPT as a valid resource for my students. They have to hunt down the actual human, the actual expert who published that, who did that. They can use ChatGPT for some part of the coursework and attribute the use of ChatGPT and on which part. But for citing, I'd force them to go to human experts. They can ask ChatGPT for the help, then they vet it, they hunt down the actual experts who said this, who did this, etc. And accountability. Now, there's this link. Can I ask my colleagues in the tech booth can you scroll down, please? Scroll down, please. There's a PDF there that we can download, but at any rate, you can check on the slide. Can we just go back to the deck, please? Turnitin has published a checklist that we can give our students when they ask themselves, did I do the proper things before using it? Did I attribute it correctly? So it's good that we also look that up. And finally, I end with this. Even ChatGPT, even Gandalf here using ChatGPT Plus, he does not see all the ends. So thank you, Xavier University and our university president.
Thank you very much, Dr. Banawan, for that very informative, timely, and relevant presentation. We just realized how AI has been existing for quite some time, and now it has become a pervading reality to accept and confront it, or in the words of Dr. Rodrigo, to wrestle with it, as it significantly changes the landscape of education. So we proceed now to our panel discussion this morning. So the ensuing panel discussion in the symposium is meant to generate discussion and elicit reactions, opinions, ideas, and policy recommendations on how the university may be able to address and manage the potential and challenges in using AI technology and other technology-driven education. So let me introduce to you first the members of the panel, starting with moderator, Mr. Jun Ranji C. Obispo. We know him as our university registrar and also a faculty member of the Department of Computer Science under the College of Computer Studies. He finished his MS Computer Science at Ateneo de Manila under the DOST-ERDT Scholarship Program, and also an alumnus of our Xavier University, graduating cum laude in BS Computer Science. His areas of interest are human-computer interaction and emerging technologies, and just going to name some, artificial intelligence and intelligent systems, and educational technology. He usually teaches core and elective computing courses like data structures, programming language, human-computer interaction. So let us welcome Mr. Jun Ranji Obispo, our moderator, for the panel discussion. So you can see we have also transformation going on the stage. Okay. Okay. Sir, you may go and take your position. So the first member of the panel is Dr. Meldy A. Apag. She is the Dean of the College of Computer Studies of Xavier University, and she has earned her academic degree in Doctor in Information Technology at the De La Salle University with a CHED FADP scholarship, and also graduated Master of Science in Information Technology here at Xavier University, and a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science also in Xavier University. She is the president of the Philippine Society of Information Technology Educators of Region 10 on her third consecutive term, and she is also a fellow of the United Board for Christian Higher Education in Asia. She has been teaching computing courses for more than 20 years, and she has her research paper. She is a research paper reviewer in the Association in Computing Machinery and in the Research and Scientific Innovation Society journals. Her interests in the field of computing include assistive technology, emerging technology, multimedia technology, usability engineering, expert systems, project management, and cloud computing. So let us welcome Dr. Meldy Apag. Our second member of the panel is Mr. Adam Emmanuel B. Guanzon. Mr. Guanzon is currently a fourth-year student from the College of Arts and Sciences, taking up Bachelor of Arts in Economics with a Father William Masterson Scholarship. He has been an active student leader since grade school here in Xavier. So potential na loyalty award gini. Okay. Engaging in different advocacy and community works and lobbying and legislating for policies and programs. He was the former executive secretary of the Central Student Government. He is also a recent graduate of the American Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines Business Leadership Program, where he represented Xavier with 2 other students in a 10-day business leadership program in Makati, Philippines. Presently, he is the newly elected president of the Central Student Government, lobbying for the Green, GREEN agenda that aims to reinvent the student aid and assistance, elevate sectoral support and services, and enhance the university experience for, by, and with the student body. Help me welcome Mr. Adam Emmanuel Guanzon. Last but not the least is Attorney Camilo Miguel Montesa, or Bong. Bong Montesa is a philosopher, lawyer, and peace and negotiator. He has been teaching philosophy and law at the Ateneo de Manila Law School since 1998. He is formerly Assistant Secretary at the Department of Education, take note. He also has 20 years of deep experience in Muslim problems in the southern Philippines. He specializes in peace processes and political transformation. For the last 20 years, he has been working on the ground in the Bangsamoro in the work of dialogue and political transformation with the non-state armed groups such as MILF, NMLF, and other armed groups. He sits on the Board of Trustees of Xavier University and heads the Academic Strategy Committee and has a huge interest in machine learning and artificial intelligence. He is also a graduate of Xavier University High School. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Attorney Camilo Miguel Montesa. Okay. And then I turn over the floor to Mr. Ranji. Mr. Ranji. And then also, let us also ask Dr. Banawan to join us on stage with a panel. Also, Dr. Rodrigo may be online. So, talk show tayo ngayon. So, Sir Ranji, take it away.
Check. Hello. Okay, so good morning once again. So I am quite honored to be here in front to facilitate what we will be discussing regarding this very interesting improvement in technology, particularly how it affects our delivery of classroom instruction. So before we have our serious discussion, I would like to ask the panelists to have their short thoughts or their response on the presentation of Doc Didith and Doc Mitch earlier. Perhaps we could start with Dean Meldy.
Okay, good morning everyone. First, I would like to thank our speakers for this morning. They have given us very relevant information actually, especially for those who are new to the technology. I think we all know, we heard about ChatGPT and other related generative applications of AI, but the concept behind that one and the usage of that one is may seem new to us. And first is with all the technicalities now, I am in the technology field and I guess I would be biased to be able to talk to people with regards to AI, since I do not know 100% know fully what is AI, but I can relate to that one. So, hearing from our speakers earlier, I think I do resonate with what our speakers have said with regards to the horror stories and the hallucinations that we do have with regards to artificial intelligence applications. And it may seem frightening at times, but again, bottom line, as our speakers would also said earlier, that it is just a tool. It is something that humans create, and we should not have many fears on that one. If there is a problem with regards to the usage, with regards to the product, then people will be able to resolve that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean Meldy. So next, may we hear from Adam?
Thank you so much for that, Sir Angie. No, thank you so much to our speakers, to our doctor na really shared their insights or really inputs about artificial intelligence. For me, during the discussion, I was actually I was actually able to recall one of my finals exam questions during my first year about STS. What do I think about technological advancements? And for me, technological advancements will always be ambitious. The ambition will always be something that will drive or make our creativity come to life. And at the same time, it makes the impossible possible. However, during the entire discussion, actually I wasn't really that exposed to ChatGPTs, being AI, and also Google Bard during my first years in college. But during my engagements in AmCham Philippines, when I went to Makati and stayed actually in AIM, I was actually exposed to AI at that time because during our process or assessments in AmCham, there is actually an integration of AI in our assessments and the processes that we had. So at that time, of course, I was very new to it, but I was actually also amazed by how my fellow batchmates were very skillful about how they can use ChatGPT to enhance their work and not actually create an output. So with that, I was also very amazed by how Doc angled her discussion about how we can use AI as actually a friend or an assistant or assistive tool to actually help us enhance our work rather than being more reliant to it. So with that, for me, I'm not actually scared in really going through the AI or exploring new possibilities because I feel like the formation program of XU or Xavier Ateneo has really developed critical thinkers in the university wherein their choices are really grounded on their values and principles. And that is a very reminder that we have to really give to ourselves. Why are we using these technological advancements? What are their uses? And this also goes back to what also our previous speaker has mentioned, that we have to be clear and direct when it comes to what our objectives are in using these different technological advancements. And with our formation program, I believe, and also our, teaching about discernment and also reflection will really aid our students on how they can move forward in using AI. So I think that's my inputs during the entire discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Now may we proceed to Attorney Bong.
Hello. Salamat. May buntag. Ganinang buntag, sayo ko. So I went to walk and I went I talked to a group of students, nursing students. 5 sila kabo. I introduced myself, I'm attending a conference. So I asked them, gamit mo ChatGPT? And then, silang 5, diretso, without thinking, oh, sir, gamit na. So, una-una na ako, wala man si kong police nga droga ba mo? Hallucination, isn't it? So after a few conversation, nag-relax sila. Siya, gagamit mo siya. Pero, hadlong mi sa mong teacher, sir. Very good. Sabi ko, that's good. So, you know, the university is still crafting our policy. That's why, in fact, the dean asked me, vice president asked me to come, because at the board level, we're still grappling with it. So I told them basically that, you know, it's nothing to be afraid of, but we should use the technologies that we have. So that's my first story. The second one is that although we have a huge confidence in our capacities, but I remember Marshall McLuhan, one of the greats in media and technology, saying, first we build the tools, then the tools build us. First we build the tools, then the tools build us. Or we have become the tools of our tools. So what I'm saying is that this is not just going to be an individual, but a collective effort on our part, because believe me, AI or machine learning or deep learning in the future will be so pervasive. So it is the future, and sometimes we have an overconfidence in our power to change things, but we are really actually users. And it's not just ChatGPT. Today, if you can download in your phone Perplexity, which is powered by Llama, which is Facebook. It's free right now. Perplexity as an app, or ChatGPT, you pay $20, $1,000, or you do Google Bard, but Google Bard's not yet very, Google's very responsible, I think, on this one. And then you can have all of this. So I can describe myself as a pervasive AI user and a more than average reader of technology. So in a sense, but that our technologies have already given the good, the bad, and the ugly part of the technology. So I will not go into that, but I'd like to address first the workplace of the future, which we are preparing our students. We are preparing our students not to be in Xavier. We are preparing our students to go and sit in the jobs, or the seats of the jobs of the future. The future is going to be pervasively AI, whether it be drafting the first draft of a letter, or marketing, or research, etc. And because of this language, it will all be, they will get better, in a sense. There'll be less investment, I think, on Turnitin than on AI. So in a sense, Turnitin cannot keep up with the technology. So if we are preparing our students in the future, the skills now should be about how to use this responsibly and how to use this in the jobs of the future. Because if our Xavier University graduates go and apply to these jobs in the future and are not adept or not immersed in these technologies, they will lose in the job market. So we have to connect our education to the future. So, and of course, the AI, of course, there are risks, the loss of human connection, depersonalization of learning, lack of critical thinking. AI doesn't teach you to be critical thinkers. AI basically wants you to take as gospel truth what it says. So if our students are not, we don't have a real on-scale program to increase literacy, internet literacy, artificial intelligence literacy, and critical thinking offline, and we rely on AI, we will never develop critical thinking in this university. And now, just two more, and AI is not just in learning. AI is extractive. It has consequences not just in education. First, it's extractive. Why? Because it leads to practices of unsustainable practices in our environment. Dex, you would know this. Because as AI continues, and we need rare earth, we need all of those mines and etc. So the whole technology will now get all of those. There will be a lot of mining that will happen in the world because of AI. Two, extracts information that we have not consented to. So it will use your information. So data privacy. And third, AI will put down the wages, salaries. The trainers of AI, for example, are in some poor country, third world country, where they pay $2 an hour, so on and so forth. So it has global consequences, not just for education, but also for Xavier. I'd like just to end by this, so how are we going to do this with breakthrough technology? Every day I follow the technologies. You have new applications, whether it be in Google Chrome. Folks, when I answered your email, if you look at it, because we're friends, it says, Dear Faustino. How is it that it was Dear Faustino? I wanted folks to tell me that I used AI for it. Because basically, Google Workplace will tell me, what do you want to respond? And I say thanks to Pox. And then it generates it in a well-crafted, but so less, walang personal touch. But Pox did not bring it up. He did not say, why did you call me Faustino? Because AI does not know Pox. He knows Faustino because Faustino is the one that sent the email. See? So, in a sense, it make life easier. So, how are we going to deal with it? I think we are Xavier University, and I think that's the key. What makes Xavier so different? What makes Xavier Xavier? It is our identity. It is our Jesuit education. It is our Jesuit pedagogy that will help us deal with AI in the future. So what will it be in terms of policy in the future? First, Jesuit education talks about cura personalis, isn't it? And AI, believe me, is not going to be cura personalis. It will depersonalize. It will uniform everyone, uniform answers, uniform standardization. And so we have to ramp up on cura personalis, which is the person, individual person with all his hopes, his dreams, his emotions, not just his intellect, etc. That's the first principle. How are we going to deal with AI? With cura personalis. Two, discernment is also a big thing in our education, isn't it? To help people reflect on things and do the right things. And discernment is another factor that we should do in the university. So in the future, we should have a communal discernment on AI. It just, the outcome today, I was telling folks, if you do this with the students tomorrow, there will be thousands of students who want to talk about AI because they're using it already. Perhaps our vice president is not using it, but they're using it already. Since December, when ChatGPT came up in November 2022. Ignition Spirituality also talks about faith and spirituality. So we want AI to lead us closer to a deep personal relationship with God. Because that is what the university stands for. So a part of our policy should be about making sure that there is spirituality in the university. And then just to put it up, that AI goes to the solution immediately. Wolfram and everything. I mean, I was struggling with calculus when I was in first year a long time ago. And then now I realize I just put the problem to ChatGPT and I say, solve this problem, show the step-by-step solution. And ChatGPT in 3 seconds makes it. And I can check whether it's Tama or not, isn't it? So any problem the students now, in fact, my son who's grade 11 says, no, we don't do that. We just take a picture of it. There's an app. You take a picture of the question in the book, it will generate the answer. So we are in that. Now, if you're surprised that that's their technology out there, wake up. We are, the world is already changing. So, but Ignatian pedagogy does not go to the result. We are not result-oriented, isn't it? We are process-oriented. We see insertion to the reality, immersion, and then we reflect on it, and then we act, and then we go back to insertion and act and reflect. That is the whole Ignatian pedagogical practice. That is how we're going to deal with AI as well. If there's, we should look at the process. As I heard, we can do multi-stage process, and then they reflect, and part of the reflection may be AI, but then action and values. That's how we're going to do it. So that's how we will not be caught by, if you just say, give me a paper on Philippine history from 1556 to etc., that's an end result. AI can do that. But if we do it in a process, it will be difficult. So I think that's what I just want to say, but I want to end with this. Matteo Ricci, one of the great Jesuits, went to China, and he was severely criticized by this because he went to China as a Jesuit, supposed to spread the faith, but he was wearing this Mandarin thing. And Matteo Ricci basically, I think, gives us some notion of what to do with AI when we go to a foreign territory, because AI is a foreign territory right now. There are no experts, and even all our technologies have said we don't know the answers. Gandalf does not see the end. Although who is that other Avenger that basically sees all the possibilities? Doctor Strange sees a lot of those ends. He doesn't know which one, but he knows what are those configurations, isn't it? And Matteo Ricci said, when you go to foreign territory, first, you must master the language and the wisdom and the customs. So I'm going to say to the faculty, to the management of Xavier, the first thing you do is open a ChatGPT account, download Perplexity, and do it, practice it, look for it, use whatever command, whatever prompt, so that you will be adept at technology. Two, you have to adapt and indigenize in a sense. We have Ignatian pedagogy. We have to adapt it to AI. That's how we're going to do it. There are no specific answers to this, but we have the principles of being Filipino, Catholic, Jesuit university, and that is what Xavier is. Sorry for the long response.
Thank you very much to our panel discussants. Now, perhaps we could hear from our invited speakers, Doc Edith and Doc Mitch, about their thoughts on what our panel discussants have mentioned earlier. Ma'am Didith, would you want to start your response to what our discussants have mentioned?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the very interesting thoughts. I wanted to react specifically to the point about indigenization. I completely agree, and I think this goes back to the question earlier about about representation and about the completeness and comprehensiveness of the data that's used to train these models. We have Jesuit universities have a very specific brand of core personalis, and we pride ourselves on keeping true to IPP and so on, and we really have to find a way to bring that into not just our use of AI, but also in the models of AI that we use. And I think that if we are able to do that, then we have something to share with the rest of the world. Yeah. Sige, I will end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Didith. Doc Mitch?
I'd also like to highlight that I agree with the context of the learner being key and being the core of all that we do before AI, and it still would be the core now of all that we will do with the reshaped landscape in education.
Yeah, so it's indeed going to be a challenge on how we are going to react on the possibility of the how education would be delivered with all the technologies that are available now. And I don't know, perhaps some of us educators may be lagging behind on these technologies, no? So perhaps some of us don't know na andyan na pala yung ChatGPT. Actually, to be honest, the first time I tried ChatGPT was just a few days ago. So yeah, I've heard ChatGPT since its release, but it was just a few days ago that I really tried to engage with ChatGPT, no? So there is no actual structure for this discussion, no? Perhaps we could hear from the audience their thoughts on the talks of Doc Didith and Doc Mitch earlier, with additional inputs from our panel discussants. Perhaps you could share a few of your thoughts. Perhaps anybody who would like to take the microphone? Or perhaps medyo overwhelmed pa, no, with this sudden realization that siguro a few years ago we thought these are just in the movies, pero andyan na pala.
Or you might have any questions you want to address or direct to the panel for them to discuss. Okay, any general question? Yes, please approach the microphone. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Rachel from DevCom. Regarding ChatGPT, I'll just give a context. In the department, when we start our classes, it's called the brevis. Among the things that we discuss, class policies. Although in the university we have not established it yet, we've already established what ChatGPT is for, what we can and can't do with ChatGPT. And during our strategic planning, we've also included discussions on how we can actually utilize ChatGPT as a tool. And probably the most amazing thing about ChatGPT is that when you include it you write a prompt starting with a course outcome. Later on, you can solicit ideas. What are teaching strategies that you can do that sticks to the learning objectives? But also, siguro, during our research thesis defense, during the defense, we of course know our students so well. And then we noticed one work was so good. We should be proud of it, but it was so good, it was unbelievable. Too good to be true. So we asked ChatGPT, did you do this? And ChatGPT actually said, yes, I did it. Why I'm leading now to the question is that for the university, when can we actually have a fixed guideline or policy? For us, it was a big decision. You will do a redefense. But plagiarism-wise, checked with a plagiarism checker, that work from our student passed the plagiarism checker. It was 100% original. But checked with the GPT would said, I did it. And then asked the student actually said, ma'am, we just gathered idea about it. We checked the references, the hallucination. The references ChatGPT wrote did not exist. But the teacher would really have to check these references. In one of our strategic meeting, our speaker today mentioned several generative AIs. We had a competition from my part-time teacher. I'm using ChatGPT, he's using Bard. We have a competition. Let's make a contest who makes the best tagline for the school year. And that's when we realized ChatGPT is like a Pokemon. So the more you feed information, the better it becomes. Otherwise, it will just be uniform to everyone. So the more you feed information, that Bard lost. So sa creativity-wise, creative language, which also says that you have to argue with your ChatGPT. You tell them you're not happy, you regenerate, it's not good. when I was starting to do an article, it's not concise. So maybe the bottom line for this one is that, again, it was released in November, and our students have been using it December. So maybe it's also good to reconsider. By the end of this semester, we will have thesis, proposal, defenses. We will have several case studies, presentations. So when can we finalize this one? I mean, we've had our own agreement in the department, but when can we have for a clear-cut policy in the university? Thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Rachel. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge for the university how we are going to facilitate and integrate properly the use of this generative AI. No, our panelists may have some thoughts on perhaps how do we jumpstart crafting policies for the university, because I think that's where Ma'am Rachel would like to she would like to point out, no, attorney.
Hello. But first, just three things, because I forgot to say this when I was listening to everyone. First, you know, AI is created in the image of its creator. Okay? So it is full of bias. It's a difference when you choose ChatGPT or Llama 2 or Google Bard. And in fact, the latest MIT technology issues says that ChatGPT is more democratic, liberal ang yung responses niya. Meaning to say that because it's based on its training was that. Okay, so but it's full of bias. And then Google Bard is more traditional. In fact, mas rightist authoritarian si Facebook, which is Llama 2. And they did that by testing, giving them specific questions on values. You know, we have values in it, and they asked them what's their stand. And so they were able to plot whether they're conservative or liberal. So first, they were saying that it is not value-free. AI is not value-free. It's not neutral. It's not neutral. Which AI you use as a text-generating or image-generating AI is a choice by itself. Whether you use Perplexity, Llama, or Google Bard, it's a choice. Two, AI is not a person. We've been talking about ChatGPT like you're talking to ChatGPT. Seductive as it is, because it appears like conversing to you like a person, it is not a person. Otherwise, mag-sorry tayo. Sorry, ChatGPT. Thank you, ChatGPT. Doesn't care whether you're sorry or it just generates all of this. So it's not a person. So you have to be able to tell yourself in the end person. If you have Alexa at home, you say, Alexa, play music for me before I sleep for 10 minutes. Or tell me a joke. Sometimes I catch myself saying, thank you, Alexa. But Alexa doesn't respond. Artificial intelligence is not really human intelligence. It's not human intelligence. I tell you why. Because human intelligence has memory, emotions, experience, yearnings, doubts, fears, joy. AI doesn't have that, so it is not human intelligence. That's the difference between us. Now, we have to constantly remind us about that. Now, policy we're still crafting. As you know, the bureaucracy, obviously, well, that's Father Mars, but the bureaucracy is, you know, you have the board, and then you have the VP, and etc. But I think that what you're doing is correct. You should do at the department level, do your best on doing those policies, because those policies that you have, whether it be in DevCom or agriculture, or will inform us well. They will tell us what works and what does not work. It's not just from the throne up down to the university. It's always been a dialogue between stakeholders and university management. I think that's how we're going to do. Today I received a memo from, I'm part of the pool of memo for Ateneo de Manila. They just came up with their policy on AI, which is basically just saying you cannot submit work that's AI, or if you have to say that you use AI. It's not much, but it's a good start. It's not much, but a good start. So it's a very short, brief memo on AI by Ateneo de Manila. So I think that's how we're going to pursue it.
Thank you, Attorney. Ma'am Mitch?
Just some key points about detection and sanction. So, yeah, I did have the experience that Turnitin, I got a 3% similarity for Turnitin, but there's this AI score. Again, that's likelihood. That's just probability. That's more than 90%. So, however, I'd like to stress that these are likelihood probability scores. And do remember, dear colleagues, that ChatGPT hallucinates. So when we ask it also if it writes something that sabihin din niya, don't take its answer as a given. That's, for all you know, that might also be hallucinatory too. And there are some experiments that will also lead to this same finding. But that's right. That's right. After that, that's part of the workflow of validating, and then our colleagues further check the references. Are they existing or not? So we check it. We put in our domain expertise, but then the burden of proof is so difficult, such that just a recommendation, but I know we are aware of it, that an AI tool, any AI checker, any plagiarism checker telling us something that it's AI generated might not protect us from lawsuits when students will say that they did not. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Mitch. Ma'am Melds?
Okay, I think Mom Rich, we have the same experience. We just experienced that one last intersession because we had our thesis capstone, well, actually methods of research under that one. And we have a group of students, we anticipated already that they will be using ChatGPT, of course. But I told the panel, before, siguro with all the faculty here, before we look at siguro a paper and trying to judge if it is written by ChatGPT or not, may we then ask ourselves if we have used, kasi sabi ni Sir Ranji last week pa daw. So, di ba, we can comment on something that we know of. So probably we will get to know first ChatGPT. And in that case, when we had our defense, when I looked at the paper, then I actually said, from the first sentence pa lang, that this is generated by ChatGPT. So how did I able to know that one? Because I used ChatGPT. And again, AI applications have patterns. So these are traditional, they have patterns. So when you are a user of that one, you must also know that somebody else used that one. So that's siguro one of the things that we also have to do with regards to identification, because we cannot identify if we don't also know something about it. And the question is, what did we do during that defense? So, well naman, when you ask students, they would not say that, ma'am, I use ChatGPT. Hindi naman siguro, no? But what can you do as a panel? What can you do as a faculty? We gave more premium to the oral defense because that's a mock defense. So what I'm saying is we have to transform. We have to transform our educational landscape. There are so much going on, but maybe we can also do something to be able to assess our students well. So we cannot probably have the traditional assessments now. We have to do something with other methodologies, other assessments that might give right, right direction in assessing students. So we gave more premium to how the student was able to explain his project. We gave more premium on how they have designed it, not going to the paper as well, no? How they would be able to explain, how were they able to design, because that's the software development, and those other things that might come up with not just reading the paper. So yeah, I think that's how assessments should be made nowadays with the onset of these AI applications. Thank you.
Yes. Adam?
Additional, sir. Aside from what the other speakers have mentioned, I believe when it comes to university policies, it's important that we consult with different stakeholders and also the members of in our community so that we know how to move forward as one institution. When it comes to policies, for example, when we have consultation, it sparks conversation, magod. So with that, we know different areas or things that we have to consider. For example, from the end of ma'am from the DevCom na office, we have a different narrative. At the same time, the other speakers have also mentioned different parts. But so if we are going to craft a university policy, it's very important that we include the students, the faculty, the non-teaching staff, and other stakeholders in the conversation, and how can we move forward as one institution.
Thank you very much. Doc Didith, you would like to add some more thoughts on how do we change now our educational landscape given this generative AI?
Yeah, I agree with what was said earlier about putting more stock into something that you can actually observe, like an oral presentation. Because if you, I mean, I'm sorry to say that we have to mistrust a little what our students submit to us. And so we need to interrogate a little more, find out what they really understood, how they went about their own investigation processes, and then how they arrived at their conclusions and so on. So parang there has to be more of a conversation between the teachers and the students. And I know the consequence of this is a lot more time and a lot more effort. But I guess that's one of the challenges to us also. Okay.
Thank you po. Yes, Ma'am Mitch?
Very quick addition. When we incorporate, when we put in a workflow to further verify, because everything now is generative AI enhanced, we should not only look at those that are really excellent, outstanding work, because as we know, our students are smart prompters. They can post, this is how I write, follow my tone, put in a bit of error here and there, and so that would escape our eyes because we're only looking at, this is really good. But what about those who used it entirely and just were smarter in generating the prompt? So
we were talking about that, Mitch, so kulang lang sa thinking to yung student, but if she or they did add some errors, put some grammatical errors so that it will not be detected, you will not be able to detect it. Don't make it awesome. You can't, don't make it so awesome that my teacher will not believe it. But I just want to add that these experiences there should be, across disciplines, faculty of Xavier, sharing these experiences that you have. Because then, that's how it works in the computers, etc. Then you can really build a practice among faculty in Xavier University about these things. And of course, I have a lot of colleagues here. We know what it is to fight for students' rights, representation, and voice. We have always been keen about that as well. So in POCs, we were haranging the university when we were students. So yes, indeed, because they use there's a lot of milya na practice ng mga students. And we need to ask them as well, what are their sentiments, etc.
And on what we put premium on, we are not, except for some use cases, we are not grading lexical sophistication, we are not grading eloquence. We are grading content, theoretical anchors, framing. So this would also be something that we might be more conscious of.
Okay. So indeed, it's going to be a big challenge not to really gauge how AI would affect our delivery of instruction, plus us on our part as educators, how do we make sure that there's a balance between the students still being able to deliver their learning outcomes and also being, tech savvy. They could utilize all these available technologies. Okay, so any other additional inputs from the audience or perhaps even from our panel discussants that you would like to add?
Good morning. I'm Dr. Mary Ann Ratag from the School of Medicine. So I would like to ask, how far has Gen AI invaded medical education? So in the medical education, we are forming our students to have the knowledge, the skills, and the attitude so that they will become competent, compassionate, and with conscience doctors in the future. How will Gen AI affect that one? It was mentioned earlier that the simulated patients, if we are going to incorporate that one, will it give us better doctors in the future rather than if they have an actual patient in the ward? Maybe it is cost effective, or maybe it less work for the faculty because simple lang, AI na tanan. But what about the doctors that we are be producing in the future? So I think that's my concern at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you for the question. Is it okay if I respond to that? I think that these tools are just among the arsenal of tools that we have when we teach. I don't think the intention is to use them exclusively. I do believe, as you said, that it's very important for doctors to deal with actual patients because, the AI can only do so much, no? So definitely, we will still need to expose our doctors to patients, real patients, as well as human beings pretending to be patients, so our doctors develop their skill, their bedside manner, and so on. The AI simulations are, they just treat them like one of many possible approaches, but certainly not to the exclusion of other approaches.
Thank you, Doc Didith.
I'd also like to quickly add. So in this one of many that Doc Didit has introduced, I'd just like to quickly share about one project that we've worked on, and one use case or application was that a simulated patient scenario, a platform where doctors learned how to communicate, how to respond to patients' emails and inquiries that factor in the patient's level of health literacy. So we did deploy a tool where there are simulated patients with varying level of literacy, and the doctors used that tool, and we found that the tool helped the doctors to deal with patients who are on the scale of lower health literacy, and how they would respond to patients on the other end of the spectrum. So that's one application that I've been part of, on how simulated patients and how AI, machine learning can help doctors do what they need to do in some parts of the job.
So yeah, thank you very much, everybody, no, especially to our panel discussants, our speakers. But of course, it's not our aim this morning to make the policy or ano, but just to really start the the discussions on the things that we have to take note of. Okay, both at the administrative level and even at the level of us as the parang sort of frontliners with the students in terms of the delivery of instruction. So I do hope that we have gained a lot of insights from the discussion earlier. So I guess that ends our panel discussion. Thank you very much.